Hello and welcome to We the People. On the program today, India's middle class is sometimes credited for driving huge changes in the country, especially post-liberalization. But does this particular socio-economic strata's increase in purchasing power correspond with an increase in political power? Many urban Indians are acutely cynical. This leads to a chicken and egg question. Is it that the middle class is disengaged because politicians routinely ignore it, or do politicians ignore it because this particular class is disengaged? Which came first? On We the People today, we're asking, can the middle class drive any sort of serious political change? Let me start with you, Manishankar Iyer. Your opinions on India's middle class are quite well chronicled. You have often expressed concern that this is a class that has seceded from the rest of the country. Why are you so cynical about the middle class? Because don't you describe yourself as middle class?
Well, I'm not cynical about it, I'm realistic about it because I'm a Marxist. And Marx said that the superstructure of a society depends in large measure on the relationship of different classes of society to the means of production. So the middle class barely participates in our elections, but it is their interests which any government of whatever color most takes into view, because their views get articulated through media such as this program. I don't see a single poor person here. So the fact of the matter is that this class, which plays a disproportionately low role in elections, has a disproportionately high role in the governance of the country.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, because a lot of middle class people would actually feel that while the rich and the wealthy of this country have access already to the political establishment and the poor are courted at least during elections, it's the middle class that's taken for granted.
The rich, of course, have their own backdoor entries into the corridors of power, but the middle class, as a bulk, is able to get its concerns articulated by their own type of middle class representatives. So our newspapers, our other media reflect their views, and they are the ones who are most articulate when it comes to utilizing public platforms. So for instance, food prices in urban areas, if they go up over 16%, you're trembling at the edge of a revolution, whereas malnutrition affecting half the children of India born under 5 is not a cause for revolution. So I think the middle class is really like a fly trapped inside a glass cage. They've got away from the filth on which they were feeding earlier because they're no longer poor, but they go on hitting against the ceiling here and there because they can't get out of the glass cage, but they can see the better life outside.
That's interesting.
And that is what I think is called middle class rage, but it is such a weak phenomenon that after turning up at Anna Hazare's rallies a couple of times, they then go home and say, what a pity that the country hasn't changed.
Okay, Chandan Mitra, what Mani is arguing actually belies what we're seeing happening here. He's saying the middle class is already too pampered.
Well, Barkha, to start with, let me just put out a definitional problem. See, since Mani described himself as a Marxist, let me just recall Marx's view of class. Marx said it is not a class for itself, even if it's a class by itself. In my opinion, today, the middle class, particularly India, is neither a class by itself nor a class for itself. It is not a class by itself because it's so disparate. Where does the middle class begin and where does it end? So what is the middle class? But how do you really define it? Number two, unlike money, I believe that the middle class is the moving force behind every major change in society.
Give an example of a change that India has seen.
The freedom struggle, JP's movement, the ideas have emanated from the middle class. And I believe the middle class has a major role to kind of ideate, to generate enthusiasm.
Then why has it been so aggressively apolitical and almost proud of it? I mean, that is at the heart of the debate.
Yes, because the middle class has no stomach for agitation. The middle class has no stomach for politics, and therefore, after kind of ideating, they are not ready to go to jail. They are not ready to get beaten up by the police, and therefore, beyond a point, the retreat begins.
So you continue to believe that the middle class drives the change. Manishankar Iyer believes that governance benefits are given to the middle class, but they're not really driving political change.
No, they're not driving political change, and they will not drive it unless they become extremely active in the politics of the country as they were during the freedom movement. And apart from sitting on their armchairs and making comments, I don't think they actively participate. And when they do come out, as that young lady who came back from America did, to stand in an election in South Bombay, she got 8,000 votes. But 8,000 votes doesn't make for political change in a democracy like ours, which is
Okay,
based on
Chandan Singh, you're not being
huge
fair. I'll
numbers.
take the
It's
back
not being
to him.
fair. You see, one of
Yeah.
his own party MPs,
Yes.
who is an NRI, who lived all his life in the US, came back and has got elected.
Madhu Gaur from Andhra Pradesh,
has
yeah.
got elected to the Lok Sabha. There are so many people now. You see them on TV, kind of advertising for products, who are US returned and have gone and got elected as Gram Sarpanch. So I don't think that's fair. But these are exceptions.
Yeah.
Exceptions.
But
But if I may complete, Barkar, the question that you first raised,
Yes.
the middle class is so disparate. Every party in that sense is driven by the middle class. But numbers don't come from the middle class. The leadership is middle class.
Okay, that's
So-
interesting. You're saying the agenda is driven by the middle class, but the numbers don't come from there.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.